Hi, this is Darren Shepard, Chief Architect at Acorn Labs, and today I'm going to be showing you Acorn by demoing building a little Flask application. So first we're going to start off with something very simple. We have an app here that basically just returns hello world. So we also have a Docker file for it. This is pretty basic, copy in requirements, run pip install requirement, and then copy in all of the rest of the source. Okay, so now we're going to create an Acorn file. So the Acorn file is how we build Acorn images. So we're going to start off and we're going to create a container. We'll just call it web. And for this one, we want to build it from the current directory. And once it's running, we want to publish the port 5000, and it's going to be protocol HTTP. HTTP is important so that when it comes up, it'll get a DNS name. So let's save this. We can now build this application. It was already cached, so it went pretty quick, but now I can run this. I just need to type in first couple characters. So now I have an app running called Green Frog, and it's available on this name. Okay, hello world. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in a cache, a Redis cache, and a database. So let's edit this app and let's put in a little bit more complicated of an application. So this is going to basically render this template here. That's going to have a little visitor count, and then it's also going to show what foods squirrels love, and that's going to come from the database. So you can see we're talking to a Redis cache that we're expecting to be at the hostname cache. And then we're also going to be talking to Postgres at the hostname DB. So now let's go and build this new application. So I got this new image, and so now I can go and update the running one. So we just say update image, let's grab the new image ID, and we're going to update that app. Okay, and that will take just a second. It looks like it's already updated, and voila, internal server error. So the reason why this isn't working is obviously I just changed the code to talk to a database in Redis, but there's no database in Redis available. So now we're going to edit the Acorn file and add those into our application. But since we're going to be making a bunch of iterative changes, we're going to switch to a development mode. So instead of doing the cycle of build and then update, we'll run in development mode, which will detect the changes and automatically rebuild. So in order to run in development mode, I'll just have another terminal open here. We'll just say acorn run. You can do --dev, or the short form is -i, and we'll just say the current directory. So now this is going to launch your app, brings it up in development mode. So it's updating the app with the latest build. Give it a second here. So now this is up again. And so again, we're still getting a server error. But as we hit this, let me go back to the console here. You'll see we're getting the output of the application. So in dev mode, it tails the running containers and then also detects changes. So additionally, what we want to do is if we make any changes to the application, we want that to be automatically synced over. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the app directory to be synced to this current directory. And then also, just as a thing for development on Flask apps, you have to set this Flask env setting to development. Okay. So once I have that, let's let that update. That takes just a second. So now when I hit it, you can see we get some more verbose errors. And just to demonstrate, like as we change the Python code, let me open up the Python app. Let's say I go back to the old simple version of the app, and I go over here and refresh. Now I get the old version. And then if I go back to the new version, that's not crashing. Okay, so we can see the reason why it's not working is because it's looking for the cache, so Redis. So first thing we need to do, we need to add in Redis. So we're going to create another service called cache. So the name of this container is the name that is available in DNS. and we're just going to run the Redis Alpine image. And everything by default, all networking by default is private. So if we want to expose any ports, we have to specify that. So we need port 6379. And so if I save that, wait for this to update again. I'll wait for it to update. So now we're on a different error. So now it's looking for this PG user. So the cache is up and running. Now we just need to add the database. So again, let's add another container. So this one we're going to be running Postgres. We'll use the Alpine image again. And the way that the Docker image works for Postgres is it expects two environment variables, Postgres DB, which will be the name of the database, and we have that in the app set to Acorn. And then we need a password, Postgres password. Okay, so it would be terribly insecure if I put a password in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to instead use a secret. So here we're going to define a secret, and we're just going to call this DB pass. And this is going to create a new secret, and we're going to make the type of the secret be token. So a little typo there, so you can see it. So what Acorn's going to do is it's going to create a new secret of type token, which means it's going to just randomly generate a value and put it into the secret. So here, for the password, what we want to do is we will then reference that secret by using the special syntax secret : / the name of the secret, which is dbpass, and then the key in the secret, which will be token. Because it's a token type, we have one key that's called token. Okay, so this will go and set up the database, or this will give us a password to the database. Okay, so the application also needs to know about this. So let's go and set up in here the PG user, Postgres, and then the PG, I believe it's the app was configured to look for pass. And so we want to reference the same secret, which was DB pass, and then token. Okay, so now when we do that, so this should reload here. All right, now let's check our application. Okay. All right, so we'll notice we have it could not translate host name. Okay, so we overlooked one little thing. Again, as I mentioned, all ports are private by default. So the database, if we want to be able to talk to the database, we need to define it. And if you noticed here, when we define this port, see how it says ports published? That means it's publicly accessible. These ports, they don't say publish, so they're just available within the application. So let's do ports 5432 TCP. Okay, and then again, wait for that to reload the app. All right. Okay, cool. So now we are actually connected to the database, but we don't have any data in the database. So part of this Docker image, what you can do is you can create files at this special path, and it will run it on initialization of the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this init here, and then we're going to create a table. Besides creating a table, we also need some data. Okay, so now we're going to do something kind of fancy with Acorn. This is just kind of a blatant use of Acorn features, but it kind of demonstrates capabilities of what we can do. Within an Acorn file, there's a section called local data, where you can just put any arbitrary information. This is just for your own use, for your like scripting to kind of help with building Acorn files. So we're going to put in here food, these three things. Now, we're going to add another file up here. And this one is going to make a function call. So in Acorn, there's a bunch of functions that are available that you can call. They're all referenced in the documentation. But what this is going to do is this is going to run join against this list here. And this is using what's called list comprehension. And it is generating this list, which is for each value in local data foo, it's going to create that string and put food in there. So it's going to basically generate 3 insert statements for acorns, hazelnuts, and walnuts. Okay. So now, once we do that, that should, let's again give it a second to reload. All right. So now we can see this app is up and fully running. So we've got the visitor count running, and then here are the different values that we're pulling from the database. Okay, so now that we've spent all this time building this application, let's package it up for production. So a couple little things that we overlooked when we were building this was, first, this is a database and it has persistence. So what we want to do is we want to actually set up a directory here for the persistence folder for Postgres, which is this directory. We are going to mount a volume to it called pgdata. Okay, so if we reference a volume called pgdata, it will automatically create one. But we can also define it down here if we want, and we can do things like set the size. So we're going to say, okay, this needs to be 20 gigabytes. This is just the default size. The size can be changed at deployment time. And then we can also set the access mode for it. So this one wants to be read-write once. So it's an exclusive volume. It can't be shared with anyone else. Oops. Let's change that to access modes. There we go. Much better. Okay. So we've added that. Now the other thing was, if you notice, we added in these little development settings up here, this Flask env. Well, we definitely don't want those settings to be done in production. So what we can do is we can break that setting out into its own section here. Notice we have env defined twice. That's fine. It's just going to merge it together. It's just the way the syntax works. But here, we don't really want these settings to be run in production. So when we run in a dev mode, there's automatically this variable set called args dev. Okay. So here we will say that this section of the configuration should only be enabled when we are running in a development mode. So when we run this in production, we won't see the dev mode anymore. Okay, so one last thing. This is just to demo some functionality. Let's put in an arg. So an arg is a deploy time parameter that you can just add in there. And we're just going to say hello world. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to define this parameter called args message hello world. And we're going to pass this parameter to the application. If I look at my application, I already have this in here called welcome. So it says welcome, hey Acorn user. And we're just going to say hello world, why not? So we'll put the welcome here and we reference it, args.message. Okay, so now so our old application we can see is that hey Acorn user. Now when we reload this, so now it says hello world. Okay. So as I said, we're going to package this up for production now. So the way that we're going to do is we're now going to build this and we're going to actually tag it. I'm going to give my account. See, I build the cloud and we'll just call it demo. Notice that I put docker.io. You have to put, if you're pushing to Docker Hub, you have to put docker.io. It won't assume that by default. But okay, so now I go and I build that application. And now at this point, I can go and push that image that I just. So I'm pushing this image, and this image includes all of the dependent images. So the built image, my Flask, plus Redis and Postgres, all those images are now included into one large image. So it links together the entire application at this point in time when I built it. So now I can go and run this application. So Acorn will point to any Kubernetes cluster. So at this point, I can just change my kubeconfig to whatever, let's say my production one was. So here, I'll just point it, this is the same one as I was using before, but now I can say run. I'm gonna give it some name. Give it some name, call this my app, and then we'll give it the image that we're gonna run. And I forgot what the argument was that we set on the app. So, oops, that one didn't work. Listen. So I forgot the argument that we set on the app. It was message. Okay, so we're gonna change the message here and we're gonna put it to, now we are done. Okay. So Acorn, yes. So I just ran this one, my app. So let's just wait till that comes up. Looks like that one's up and running. And now we're done. Now that concludes my demo. You can find out more information on acorn.io. All right, thanks.